everyone, welcome to our last Ed puzzle for our term. I just wanted to go over a few things from last week and this week. So last week we looked at evaluation of various alternatives, looking at things like culture in organizations, value add, overall, things like that. So that was our work last week, and obviously the bulk of your work last week I'm sure was dominated by the final project. So I look forward to taking a look at those this week, but you also had your quiz and your Ed puzzle last week as well. So, and the discussion, obviously. So this week, the main focus of this week is the balanced scorecard. We'll be looking at, you've got some articles about balanced scorecards, you've got an example, and what we're looking for in our discussion this week is, what types of things would you want in your balanced scorecard if you were to create one? And scorecards, you may run into the balanced scorecard in other classes, and you may already have. They are important to operations. They're important to finance. They're important to patient safety, quality, those types of things, human resources. So the balanced scorecard can be really used to be a dashboard for anything. You can monitor things like patient safety stats, census in your facility, patient satisfaction, employee satisfaction and human resource related issues, staffing levels, anything that you're interested in, finances, you can plop there in that, like days in AR and that kind of stuff. You can plop there in that dashboard or scorecard. So that's what our discussion this week is about. And like I said, you may have run into it in another class previously, what that balanced scorecard is all about. We also have an optional discussion this week, just some feedback on the course, what you liked, what you didn't, those kinds of things. It's completely optional. You will also get a survey, or you already did, I'm sure, get a survey, and all of that's you don't have as much of a chance to share narrative in those surveys. We like these, like every time I go to teach this class again in the future, I go back to this discussion post from the prior time I taught it to update the class and make changes for the things that students didn't like, and perhaps add more of the things that students did like. So we really do appreciate when you fill that discussion board out, but it's not required by any means. When we have our quiz and our Ed puzzle as well. So let's hop over and take a look at the quiz questions from last week. So the first one, which of the following is likely to favor the use of the matrix structure? So the matrix structure, when you think about a matrix structure in an organization, it really allows the people that are in charge of the specialized area that function, I guess I don't want to say specialized area, the people that are in charge of that function to really be in charge of that function. So so it really has like if you're in marketing, you're in marketing, and you don't have marketing within the Department of Surgery and the Department of Clinical Services and the Department of Wellness or whatever. You have marketing, and then marketing is kind of spread across in a matrix, spread across all of the different clinical areas or other areas that need to be marketed. So the matrix structure is really focused on, okay, what are the problems that we need to have solved, and then we can solve that problem. And it's not really about, oh, we only help people that are in the Department of Medicine, or we only help people that have a specific function. It's really about it's about organizing around problems. Okay, what do we do to fix a problem? We have a human resource issue. Well, what do we do to fix the problem in the organization? And then it can be spread across other areas that maybe aren't currently having that problem or don't have it on as high a scale, etc. The problem with the matrix structure is the lack of clear reporting. Who reports where and all of that. Like, for example, there's an exhibit in the textbook, in the print version on page 373, but it's exhibit 9-6, and shows kind of the cross-reporting of all of these different areas, and how there's involvement. Every time you see an intersection of a line, that means that there's the potential involvement between those two areas, but who does that person actually report to? What are their priorities? What do they work on first? can cause, if you have, like for example, I'll just use marketing because that's part of this class, but let's say you have a really loud, kind of the squeaky wheel in the Department of Medicine, but the Department of Obstetrics chair is maybe a little quieter and doesn't, isn't as squeaky a wheel. So then perhaps marketing is going to be putting more effort toward the Department of Medicine because they're the ones yelling about it. And that's not the right, that's not the right situation to have. So the matrix structure isn't always all that great, but it really can help to get a rapid response to something, because the people that are expert in it are the ones that are going to be coming to your aid, hopefully. So that is that focus on a problem to be solved is the correct answer there. Next one, matrix structure, again, is an organizational hierarchical design that forms the basic building blocks for organizations. So if you look at that matrix structure exhibit that I was just talking about in your textbook, you'll see all of those building blocks. So it really does have all of the building blocks we need for an organization. The problem is as we were just talking about, like the clear setting of priorities, the clear reporting up the chain of command. Those types of things are sometimes lost in the matrix structure. But it really does form all the building blocks for an organization. On the flip side, if you go over, if you have the print copy of the textbook on page 372, there's a divisional structure, and you might think, well, that's a better building block structure. Well, it's really not, because you look at any of those administrative services like marketing, HR, planning, legal, all of that stuff, that's all in its own little box up at the top, and there's no specific relation between them and the functional departments that would need it. So the divisional structure doesn't create the hierarchy that a matrix structure does. And so what you likely saw in the reading, and what there is in the real world, is a combination of something, a combination of these things. So for example, in finance, my first job in the hospital was working in finance as a financial analyst. And so finance is a single structure. It reports up through the CFO, who reports to the CEO. But the key was that every person in the finance department, at least in the financial analysis department, had a kind of a dotted line reporting relationship to managers in different areas. So I was assigned to certain areas in the hospital, and I was their resource for financial matters. And they could work with me on their budgets and all of those types of things, and then ultimately report up through, they would report up through their clinical chain, we would report up through our financial chain, but there would still be that direct relationship between the two. So so those combinations of those types of settings is really what is most functional. Oops, there we go. Next question. The human resources unit of a healthcare organization is generally considered to be engaged in value-adding service activities. And unfortunately for human resources, that's not really the case. Human resources provides an incredible service to an organization, and is needed, on the most basic level. Human resources is needed, but they're really not kind of that value add. Now, that doesn't mean that a good human resources department can't add value to your organization. If you have a good human resources department, they're going to work well to keep your employees safe and healthy and happy and wanting to stay on at your organization. They're going to provide opportunities for your employees. And then if you're a candidate, and if you have a good human resources department, they're going to give feedback to candidates. They're going to stay on top of issues. Probably the biggest, I'll call it a faux pas. A lot of people, it's just standard operating procedure, but probably the biggest issue I see with human resources department, well, two. The biggest one that I see is people apply for a position, and they may get an auto response that says, hey, thanks for applying, and then they never hear anything again. And it seems like it could just as easily be another auto response from human resources to say, hey, we are impressed by your credentials, but we've decided to move forward with a different candidate. And that, I think, is a huge disservice that we do to our candidates by just sending that second note. would likely encourage that person to reach out to us again if we had another position open that they wanted to apply for. If we just ghost them and don't ever respond again, then that's that doesn't look good for us. So that's one area where it's not necessarily a value add from a service perspective, but it is a value add for the community. That can make us look better than other organizations. The other issue, and it's a need, something we need in the industry, but it's still problematic, is the notion of the applicant tracking system. So we have these applicant tracking systems that weed out candidates. Well, sometimes it's weeding out great candidates because maybe they have a line in their resume that that is tracking as something other than the information that's there, or maybe especially in healthcare, the way different jobs are done in different parts of the country or in different organizations, we use different words, and maybe that applicant tracking system is only looking for very specific words associated. Like, for example, in New York, where we came from, folks that worked on the floors in a hospital helping nurses were called aides, or sometimes unit secretaries, depending on what they did. So there would be unit secretaries and there would be aides. In Pittsburgh, when we got there, those same positions were called patient care technicians or PCTs, something like that. Something as simple as that could negate someone as being eligible. Maybe that PCT goes to New York and applies for a job, and there aren't jobs called that there because it's the same job, it's just called something different. And that applicant tracking system is not smart enough to realize, oh, this person's been doing this job for 10 years. We should really give them a look. So I think that's another area where some organizations can do really well and add some value to their overall organization, and others just don't do a great job at it, and unfortunately it detracts from the value. Next question. Healthcare marketing simplified by the need to focus on a single class of customer, the healthcare consumer or patients. And that's not the case at all. We need to focus on a much broader market than that, especially now. Business to business type marketing in healthcare is very important. Organizations need to work together. So we're not just always focusing on the consumer. We're focusing on anybody that would be a user of our activity in some way. Maybe they're using our services to refer their clients to. Maybe they're purchasing items from us to use for their patients. It's just important that it's not just about focusing on the consumer of healthcare or the patient. It's looking at the person that is the customer that's buying the services, and then also who are those customers. They're much more than just our patients. Could be other businesses, up and down the vertical, or different organizations, etc. So important to be aware of that. So that's it. Hop back to the classroom. So that's all I have for you. As always, please feel free to reach out if you should need anything before we meet again. I'm pretty sure I'll see everybody this summer I'm not sure what, maybe 60-60, but I'm sure we will see each other again this summer, hopefully. And if not, for whatever reason, as always, please feel free to keep my information, reach out. I'm happy to help you at any point. And if you have any questions or anything to follow up on for this class, please just let me know, and I'm happy to do that. So I will see everyone in the class this week. Thanks.